my name is Rita Rosenbach. I am the author of the book Bringing Up a Bilingual Child. I'm also the driving force behind the Multilingual Parenting Facebook page, as well as the group, which you are welcome to join. I am also a family language coach. I help parents who want to raise their children to speak more than one language. That happens normally through online course, and I will create a tailor-made family language plan with follow-ups for the families. Today I have 2 questions that have been sent in advance, fairly short ones. If there are any further questions that appear in the comments during the call, I will pick up those as well. But I will start with Joanna's question. Joanna, please let me know if you are online. So Joanna says that she and her husband speak the minority language with their daughter, and she says with limited consistency. The limited thing comes through the fact that they would like to speak the minority language with each other as well. So mom and dad are striving to speak the minority language with each other to increase, I suppose, to increase the exposure to their daughter, but that they're failing to do so. And she would like to have some advice on how to learn to stick to their language, the minority language, when they speak with each other. So what I'll do, I'll put a link in the comments afterwards. I wrote a post on this for not too long ago, so I will add that link to the comments afterwards. So what I would recommend that you do, Joanna, is that you and your husband sit down and discuss this, and find out, or discuss it and discuss it so that you can find out why you want to speak the minority language. Find a strong enough incentive why you should do it. Because normally what I have found, if you decide to do something and then you do not do it, then there's something else which is in conflict with your desire to do A instead of B, what you really wanted to do. So find out why. And what would be interesting to know is that you pay real close attention to at the times when you switch to the majority language, when you would actually want to speak the minority language. What are those situations? Is it when you're in a hurry, or is it when you speak about a certain topic, or there is some underlying reason why you find it easier to stick to the minority language? And then once you had the discussion, then decide to support each other, so you remind each other. So when one starts to speak the majority language instead of the minority one, so that the other one then reminds the other person. What you can also do is to put some monetary incentive. Make a jar where you have to put some money in if you speak the wrong language with each other. What is important though is that you can't use this money for something that you would like to do, like saving for your holiday or going out for a nice meal, because that would kind of be counterproductive. So you need to decide that whatever money you put in the jar will go to something that you wouldn't like it to go to. For example, if you have a favorite sports team, donate it to your favorite sports team's opposing team. Give it to some charity that you wouldn't normally support. Just anything. So you need to make this a strong incentive, So you know that if you speak the wrong language, then money goes to a course that you really don't want it to do. So keep in mind that it takes about 3-4 weeks of strong commitment to create a new habit. So it will get easier by time, but it's the initial first weeks that are difficult. So you need to make sure that that the incentives are strong, and the kind of the repercussions are also strong if you don't do it. Discuss it, decide, commit, and then create the proper incentives. Also, what is really important is you do not mention how much exposure your daughter gets to the minority language. If she only gets exposed to the language at home, then it's even more important that you do it, and that should be your strongest incentive. And I always recommend to ask some crucial questions about how would you feel if your daughter wouldn't grow up learning the minority language, and if you would feel that it was because she didn't get enough exposure to it at home. Would you feel that, looking back, you wish that you had spoken it more? That might well be the case. So think about like 5 years ahead and look back and imagine different scenarios where your daughter might not be speaking the minority language because there was lack of exposure. How you would feel if you would then feel that, oh, I wish I had spoken a bit more of it at home. That should be a really strong incentive to you. My apologies. I'm having a bit of a cough today, so I will keep it a bit brief unless there are further questions coming up in the comments. Another question comes from Cheno, who asks a very simple question, or very short question, but it's not a simple question. What is the mother tongue of a bilingual child having same proficiency in both languages? So this is a question of a definition. How do you define a mother tongue? Well, first of all, the term mother tongue doesn't have an exact scientific definition. It is very much to a person themselves to decide what they feel that their mother tongue is. If I take myself as an example, so I grew up in a bilingual home where my mum spoke Finnish to me, and the rest of the family spoke Swedish, or a Finland Swedish dialect. So today I feel that although Finnish was my mother's tongue, my mother's language, and that was my strongest emotional language for a very long time, I have gone through school, and most of my friends have been Swedish speaking. So I feel that my mother tongue is Swedish. Swedish, but two versions of it. It's the dialect on one hand, and also the Finland Swedish that I speak now to my daughters and my grandson, which I'm really happy about, and with many of my relatives back in Finland. So if you think about other definitions, then there is the definitions of different languages used in research is simply L1, L2, so language 1, language 2, language 3, and so on. And this is purely based on the order in which languages are learned. There is no distinction as to the level of fluency of each of these languages. So none of those, you can't say that L1 is always the mother tongue, because it may happen that you learn a language early on in life and later forget it. So if what's researchers call L1 would always be your mother tongue. If you were to forget that, would you then be mother tongue less? I have written a post about my own situation and my different languages. Now I'll add a link to that later on as well. Cheno, you mentioned that the child has same proficiency in both languages. It's quite unusual that anyone has got exactly the same proficiency in both languages. First of all, it's not an easy thing to define, but also what normally happens with bilinguals is that you have different areas of life where your languages have a different dominance. So let's say someone who teaches at a university might be efficient and fluent in the language used at the university, and that's their dominant language in that area of life. However, at home, when they speak with their children, might be speaking another language, and that would be their fluency is very high in that area of life. So what we call balanced bilinguals are actually fairly rare. Most of us, independent of how many languages you speak, even with 2, is that they are not exactly the same. I don't know exactly what is the reason, Cheno, of your asking. Maybe you're being asked this in a form, because that's sometimes the case. I certainly I have been there myself, where I have been asked to define my mother tongue. That was back in Finland, and at a point I felt that Finnish and Swedish were both as strong, so I couldn't really have picked one. So what I did, if I was allowed to use only one, if it was a paper form, I would put both in. But if it's like a tick that you have to tick only one option, what I would do, I would pick the one which was in minority. I would tick Swedish by default, unless there was some good reason for me to tick Finnish. So this is something that bilinguals can pick and choose. If they feel very strongly about both languages, they can decide themselves which is their mother tongue. Of course, with a child, they don't have that ability to think about the different nuances about the language as deeply. But if it's the case that Cheno, that you have to choose one for your child, but you don't know which one it is, then choose, and you can choose only one, then choose the one which is the best for the situation where you have to make this choice. Maybe it's for the school or anything. If it's like some schools want to know which is a child's strongest language, you may want, if you should find out in advance what are the options for the different languages. So if you choose one, what happens? Will your child then get extra support, or will the child get extra options? So find out what the different paths are depending on which language you use. But congratulations on having a child who you can say has got the same proficiency and is a totally bilingual. That's really when congratulations. Well done, congratulations on managing to raise a child like that. Sorry about that. Those were the 2 questions I had for today. So if there are no other questions, I will finish the Q&A session. I will wait a few moments still. If somebody wants to ask something, I'll be happy to respond to it. Otherwise, I will finish for today, and I wish you a great day, and hope your um, project of raising bilingual children goes well. If you have any questions, just send them through to me. I'll be happy to answer them either through a Q&A or a Q&A live here on Facebook, or through an article on the website. I will add, once I've closed the session now, I will add those two links that I promised. The one about remembering to speak the minority language yourself, and the other one about defining what mother tongue is. Thank you very much for listening. Have a great day or evening or morning, wherever you are. Thank you. Bye.